The galaxy knew the Vangar not as conquerors, but as the aristocracy of the void. They were an ancient, terrifyingly beautiful species that had achieved a form of biological immortality. They did not age. They did not sicken. And most terrifyingly, they did not stay wounded. The Vangar were parasitic apex predators. They fed directly on the life essence of lesser beings. In battle, they didn't carry medical kits. If a Vangar warrior was shot, stabbed, or burned, they simply grabbed the nearest enemy soldier, sank their crystalline siphons into their flesh, and drained them dry. The victim would wither into a desiccated husk in seconds, while the Vangar's wounds closed instantly, their strength renewed, their skin glowing with stolen vitality. To fight the Vangar was to fight an army that drank your death to fuel their life. They viewed humanity not as an enemy fleet but as a cattle drive. They called us the warm rations. When the Vangar expansion fleet descended upon the human colony world of Thanotas IV, Siphon Malachar led the vanguard. He was 7 feet tall, clad in armor woven from nebular silk and hardened obsidian, moving with a predatory grace that defied the human eye. "Look at them," Malachar hissed to his brood, watching the human defensive lines dig in on the twilight plains. "They build walls of dirt. They hide behind metal sheets. They do not understand that their purpose is to be consumed. Today we shall feast well. Do not kill them all at once. Save the lively ones for the healing draughts." The initial human defense went exactly as the Vangar predicted. The Terran Marines fought bravely, pouring heavy kinetics and plasma fire into the advancing alien ranks. Vangar warriors fell, their chests blown open, limbs severed. But then the feeding began. Wounded Vangar leapt over the barricades, moving faster than the human eye could track. They snatched screaming Marines from their foxholes. The sound of the Siphons feasting was a wet, sickening slur that echoed across the battlefield. Within moments, the fallen Vangar were standing again, perfectly healed, wiping human blood from their pale lips before wading back into the slaughter. Human morale collapsed. You cannot fight an enemy that uses your own casualties as health packs. The distress calls from Thanotas IV were screams of utter despair. "They're eating us," a young corporal sobbed over the comms. "I shot one in the face. I saw its head snap back. It just grabbed Jenkins and his face grew back. We have to retreat." But retreat was not an option for Captain Lena Chemtrail Rostova of the 77th Biohazard Division, known affectionately by the rest of the Corps as the Chem-Dogs. Rostova and her unit were not standard infantry. They were volunteers from the penal colonies and the desperate fringes of human space. They were men and women who had nothing left to lose, and they had signed up for a program that was barely legal under Terran law. They were the Poison Blood Protocol. Rostova stood in the forward trench, watching the Vangar advance through the mist. She wasn't trembling with fear. She was trembling because her body was currently fighting a losing war against 50 different unauthorized chemical compounds. Her armor was bulky, covered in external tubing and thick, pressurized reservoirs of glowing fluids. These weren't combat stimulants. They were cocktails of synthesized neurotoxins, weaponized adrenaline, heavy metal compounds, and experimental necrotic agents. "All right, dogs," Rostova grated, her voice rough, her pupils dilated to pinpricks. "The vampires are hungry. They think we're just another walking juice box. They think our biology is weak." She slapped the activation stud on her chest armor. A dozen auto-injectors hissed simultaneously, driving needles deep into her neck, arms, and chest. A wave of liquid fire roared through her veins. Her heart rate tripled. Her blood turned into a highly pressurized, toxic sludge that would kill a normal human in minutes. The only thing keeping the Chem-Dogs alive was a counteragent drip that barely held the poison at bay. "Let's show him what human takeout tastes like," Rostova smiled, her gums bleeding slightly from the chemical stress. "Dinner is served." The Chem-Dogs broke cover. They didn't fire their weapons. They charged. Siphon Malachar watched in amusement as the small group of humans ran toward his elite guard, leaving the safety of their trenches. "Foolish cattle," Malachar laughed. "They run to the slaughter. Do they wish to be consumed so badly? Very well. Grant them their wish." A Vangar warrior, eager for a fresh kill, intercepted the leading human, a massive brute of a man named Jax. The alien moved like quicksilver, batting Jax's rifle aside and plunging its siphons deep into the man's neck artery. The Vangar began to drink deeply, expecting the warm, revitalizing rush of human vitality. Instead, it got a mouthful of compound X99. The reaction was instantaneous. The Vangar warrior didn't heal. It froze. Its pale skin suddenly flashed a horrific, pulsating neon green. The delicate, crystalline structure of its siphons, evolved over millions of years to process pure life essence, immediately corroded on contact with the human's weaponized blood. The alien tried to scream, but its throat muscles seized in a massive, paralyzing cramp. The neurotoxins, designed to overload a human nervous system, hit the Vangar's hypersensitive metabolism like a freight train. Its regenerative abilities backfired, trying to heal damage that was spreading through every cell in its body simultaneously. The Vangar warrior convulsed violently and collapsed, foaming at the mouth with glowing green sludge, its immortal body tearing itself apart at the molecular level. Jax, still standing despite the wound, just wiped the toxic blood from his neck and grinned at the twitching alien corpse. "Little spicy for ya, huh?" Malachar stared in horror. What sorcery is this? The cattle, they are corrupted." Captain Rostova slammed into Malachar before he could process what was happening. She didn't try to fight him hand to hand, she let him catch her. She grabbed his armored shoulders, pulling him close, practically offering her neck. "Come on, Your Highness," Rostova taunted, her eyes glowing with chemical fury. "Have a drink. It's on the house." Driven by ancient instinct and blind rage, Malachar sank his fangs into her shoulder. The high siphon tasted fire. It was a sensation of absolute biological violation. Rostova's blood was a swirling cocktail of synthesized death. The weaponized adrenaline hit Malachar's heart like a defibrillator gone rogue, sending it into cardiac arrest. The heavy metals bonded instantly to his neural pathways, severing his connection to his own limbs. Malachar recoiled, stumbling back, clutching his throat. He tried to purge the poison, but his body didn't know how. He had spent eternity as the apex predator. He had never evolved a defense against being poisoned by his own food. "You!" Malachar gasped, his voice a wet gurgle as black veins spiderwebbed across his perfect, pale face. "You have poisoned the well? You are abominations." Rostova stood over the fallen lord, her auto-injectors still pumping the counter-agents that kept her barely alive. "We're humans, asshole," Rostova spat, her saliva sizzling slightly on the ground. "We don't have immortality. We don't have magic healing. All we have are guts and a complete disregard for our own long-term health. You wanted our life? You got it. All the messy, toxic parts included." The Vangar army, seeing their high siphon writhing in agony and their warriors dropping dead after every successful feed, broke into panic. Their entire tactical doctrine collapsed. They couldn't heal. They were terrified to touch the enemy. The hunters had become the poison bait. The remaining human forces, seeing the Immortals fall, rallied and pushed the Vanguard back to their ships in a chaotic rout. The Battle of Thanotas 4 was won not by superior firepower, but by biological sabotage. The Chem-Dogs paid a heavy price. Half of them died from system shock before the battle ended. But they proved that humanity was not cattle. Humanity had proven the ultimate biological HFY truth. You can be an immortal predator at the top of the food chain. You can view us as nothing more than a meal. But if you try to eat a species that is willing to turn its own veins into a toxic waste dump just to spite you, you're going to end up with a very bad case of indigestion. We might be soft on the outside, but inside we're pure poison. This has been Apex Sci-Fi. Drink up. The first round is fatal. That if you enjoyed this toxic victory over the space vampires, hit that like button. Comment below. What's the craziest thing you'd inject yourself with to win a fight against an alien? Subscribe for the next story in the new Frontier saga, The Diamond Breaker. The feast is over. The poison has spread.